Chapter number 2, Network Security. Network security is the practice of protecting computer networks and their components from unauthorized access, misuse, modification, or destruction. It involves implementing measures to prevent security breaches, detecting intrusions, and responding to security incidents. One massive example of network security breaches is the NHS in the UK. The NHS in the UK is responsible for managing sensitive medical data and personal information of millions of patients. Unfortunately, there have been several data breaches within the NHS in recent years, which has resulted in the exposure of patient data and personal information. Some examples of this include in 2017, the NHS suffered a major cyber attack which resulted in the loss of thousands of patient records. The attack was caused by a ransomware virus called WannaCry, which exploited a vulnerability in outdated Windows software. In 2018, it was reported that NHS staff had inappropriately accessed the medical records of patients, with some staff members selling the information to third parties. In 2019, a data breach at NHS Highland led to the exposure of the personal information of thousands of patients. The breach was caused by an email error, which resulted in sensitive information being sent to the wrong recipient. And more importantly, more recently, in 2020, it was reported that the NHS had inadvertently exposed the personal information of over 18,000 people who had been diagnosed with HIV. The data breach occurred when an email was sent to a group of individuals and the email addresses of all recipients were visible to others. These data breaches are concerning as they can lead to a loss of trust in the NHS and the healthcare system as a whole. It is important for the NHS to take steps to prevent data breaches, such as implementing strong security measures and providing staff with appropriate training on data protection. Additionally, patients should be informed of any data breaches should they occur, so that they can take steps to protect themselves from potential ID theft and other forms of fraud. Fundamental concepts of network security include the following: confidentiality, ensuring that information is only accessible to authorized users and is kept private from unauthorized users. Integrity, ensuring that information is not modified or altered by unauthorized users. Availability, ensuring that information and network resources are available to authorized users when needed. Authentication, verifying the identity of users or devices attempting to access the network or its resources. Authorization, granting or restricting access to network resources based on the user or device credentials. Encryption, converting information into a form that can only be read by authorized users, using cryptographic algorithms. Firewalls, network security devices that monitor and control incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predetermined security rules. Intrusion detection systems, also known as IDS, network security systems that detect and alert administrators to potential security breaches. Virtual private network, VPNs. These are secure connections that allow remote users to access a private network over a public internet. Patch management, ensuring that network devices are updated with the latest security patches and software updates to prevent known vulnerabilities from being exploited. These concepts and technologies are essential for maintaining a secure network and protecting against cyber threats. It is important to regularly review and update network security measures to stay ahead of evolving threats and vulnerabilities. Next, we look at hardening. Hardening refers to securing a system by reducing its surface of vulnerability. Here are some important ways to harden a computer system or a network. First of all, keep all software up to date with the latest patches and security fixes. This includes the operating system, applications, firmware, etc. Next, remove any unnecessary software, services, features, usernames or drives to minimize avenues of attack. Disable components that are not required. Next, secure the configuration of the system by following the principle of least privilege. Disable default accounts and restrict permissions. Next, enable security features like antivirus, firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, and data encryption. Next, use strong password policies and multi-factor authentication wherever possible to prevent unauthorized access. Next, restrict physical access to drives, devices, and isolate particularly sensitive systems and data. And finally, implement the practice of regular backups to ensure recovery in case of compromises or data loss due to hardware failure or malicious activity. Set up system login and network monitoring solutions to detect anomalous activity and cyber threats early. Establish monitoring processes and alerting. Establish patch management and configuration change control workflows to maintain a consistent hardened state. Conduct vulnerability assessments and penetration tests to identify weaknesses and attack vectors that need to be secured. Provide cybersecurity training to employees regarding practices like password hygiene, identifying phishing, and reporting risks. Stay up to date with the latest threats and utilize threat intelligence to enhance defenses proactively. Basically, the goal of hardening is to eliminate as many security risks as possible to make the system highly resistant to cyber attacks, leveraging both technology and processes. It's an ongoing practice requiring regular audits and maintenance. Applications are secure and less vulnerable to attacks. Next, we look at data encryption. Data encryption is the process of encoding information in such a way that only authorized parties can access it. Here are some of the key points about encrypting your data. Encryption converts readable data called plain text into scrambled ciphertext and looks like random gibberish. It uses cryptographic algorithms and keys to encrypt and decrypt data. Common algorithms include AES, Blowfish, RC4, DES, and RSA. The encryption keys are essential for decoding data. Public key encryption uses public and private key pairs. A symmetric key uses the same key to encrypt and decrypt. Encryption protects data privacy and integrity. It prevents unauthorized access to sensitive data stored on devices, networks, and cloud services. Proper key management is critical. If keys are lost, stolen, or compromised, the encrypted data can become inaccessible. Applications include encrypting files and hard drives. Communications like email, instant messaging, passwords, blockchain transactions, website connections, and more. Regulations often mandate encryption for personal data like healthcare records, financial information, PII, that's personal identifiable information, and confidential corporate data. Benefits include information security, privacy, compliance, and shielding sensitive data from cyber criminals. However, it can impact system performance. Encryption provides an important defense layer, but must be combined with access controls, backups, endpoint security, and other measures for robust data protection. Next, DNS security. DNS security refers to protecting the domain name system, also known as DNS, from cyber threats like malware, phishing, and DDoS attacks, which is denial of service. Here are some key ways to enhance DNS security. Use DNS over HTTPS or DNS over TLS to encrypt DNS queries and prevent eavesdropping or manipulation of DNS traffic. Enable DNSSEC on the DNS server to authenticate responses using digital signatures and prevent DNS cache poisoning. Use a firewall or proxy to filter unwanted DNS traffic and detect anomalous activity like high volumes of queries. Configure rate limiting on the DNS server to prevent excessive resource consumption from DDoS attacks. Use solutions like Response Policy Zones, RPZ, to implement access controls and block requests to malicious domains. Enable logging and monitoring to detect issues like spoofed DNS queries, unauthorized zone transfers. Also, ensure the DNS server is kept patched and up to date to mitigate vulnerabilities. Disable unnecessary services and ports. Use a DNS registrar locks to prevent unauthorized changes or transfers of DNS settings and records. Implement multi-factor authentication and restrict admin access to prevent unauthorized configuration changes. Separate public DNS servers from internal ones holding sensitive information. Use split horizon DNS. Educate employees on DNS-based threats like phishing and importance of keeping software updated. Have a backup DNS server and recovery plan in case the primary server fails or is compromised. Adopting these best practices will go a long way in securing your DNS infrastructure from modern threats. Next, we look at passwordless authentication. This is a method of verifying a user's identity without requiring them to enter a traditional password. Instead, it relies on alternative authentication factors such as biometrics, using fingerprint scans, facial recognition, or other biometric data to confirm the user's identity. One-time passwords, sending a time-sensitive code to the user's registered device via email, SMS, or a mobile app for them to enter. Authentication tokens, utilizing hardware tokens or mobile apps like Google Authenticator to generate codes for authentication. Smart cards. And employing physical smart cards is or virtual smart card emulation on mobile devices. FIDO2. Utilizing the FIDO2 standard, which enables secure passwordless authentication using public key cryptography. Passwordless authentication is considered more secure than traditional password-based methods because it reduces the risk of password-related vulnerabilities, such as weak passwords or password reuse. It also offers a more user-friendly experience and can enhance security in various online services and applications. Next, we look at quantum cryptography. This is a branch of cryptography that uses principles from quantum mechanics to secure communications. It is based on the fundamental properties of quantum mechanics, such as the uncertainty principle and the no-cloning theorem, to provide security features not achievable with classical cryptography. Quantum cryptography typically involves two main protocols. Quantum key distribution, QKD. This allows two parties to generate a secret shared key over quantum communication channel. The key is created using the properties of quantum entanglement and the behavior of quantum particles. Any attempt to intercept or eavesdrop on the quantum communication would disrupt it, alerting the parties to the intrusion. Next, quantum safe cryptography. Quantum computers have the potential to break many commonly used cryptographic algorithms, for example RSA and ECC, due to their ability to efficiently solve certain mathematical problems. To prepare for this threat, researchers are developing quantum-resistant cryptographic algorithms, also known as quantum or quantum-safe cryptography. Quantum cryptography offers the promise of secure communication channels that are theoretically immune to attacks by quantum computers. However, it is still an evolving field with practical challenges, and its widespread adoption is currently limited. Nevertheless, it represents a significant advancement in the quest for highly secure communication methods. Next, we look at mobile security fundamentals. Mobile security is the practice of protecting mobile devices, their data, and the networks they access from unauthorized access, theft, and other cyber threats. Here are some fundamental aspects of mobile security. Use a strong password. A strong password is the first line of defense against unauthorized access to your mobile device. Use a unique, complex password that includes a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. Next, keep your device up to date. Make sure you have the latest security updates and patches installed on your mobile device. These updates often address security vulnerabilities that could be exploited by hackers. Next, install security software. Install anti-malware and antivirus software on your device to protect against malicious apps and other threats. Be cautious of public Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi networks are often unsecured and can be used by hackers to intercept your data. Avoid accessing sensitive information on public Wi-Fi networks. Next, use encryption to protect your data from prying eyes. Encryption technology makes it difficult for hackers to access and read your data. And finally, disable Bluetooth and NFC when not in use. Bluetooth and NFC can be used to transfer files and connect to other devices. Next, we look at public Wi-Fi security. Using public Wi-Fi networks can be convenient, but it also poses security risks. Here are some tips to help protect your privacy and security when using public Wi-Fi. Avoid accessing sensitive information. Try to avoid accessing sensitive information such as online banking, shopping, or entering passwords while using public Wi-Fi. Next, use a VPN. A virtual private network can help protect your online activity and data by encrypting your internet connection. There are many VPN services available, both free and paid. Next, check the network name. Make sure you're connecting to the correct public Wi-Fi network. Hackers can create fake networks with similar names to lure people into connecting to them. Next, turn off sharing. Disable file sharing on your device to prevent others from accessing your files and folders. Next, keep your device updated. Make sure your device's operating system and apps are kept up to date with the latest security patches. Next, use HTTPS. Look for websites that use HTTPS encryption, which encrypts your communication with the website, making it more difficult for anyone to intercept your data. Also, use two-factor authentication whenever possible to add an extra layer of security to your online accounts. By following these tips, you can help protect your privacy and security when using public Wi-Fi networks. Next, we look at IoT security measures. IoT means Internet of Things. IoT security refers to the measures and practices implemented to protect Internet-connected devices and systems from unauthorized access, misuse, modification, and theft of data. As more and more devices become connected to the Internet, the need for IoT security becomes increasingly important to ensure the safety and privacy of individuals and organizations. Here are the key aspects of IoT security. Authentication and authorization. Devices and users should be properly authenticated and authorized before they are granted access to the network or system. Encryption. Data transmitted between devices should be encrypted to prevent interception and manipulation. Network segmentation. IoT devices should be segmented into different networks to limit the damage that can be done in case of a security breach. Firmware updates. IoT devices should be kept up to date with the latest firmware updates and patch any security vulnerabilities. Physical security. Physical access to IoT devices should be restricted to prevent theft or unauthorized tampering. User education. Users should be educated on safe IoT practices and how to recognize and respond to security threats. Implementing these measures and staying up to date with the latest IoT security best practices can help ensure security of IoT devices and systems. Next, we look at an important concept of zero trust security strategy. What does zero trust mean in cybersecurity? Zero trust is a cybersecurity framework that operates under the principle of never trust, always verify. The key ideas behind zero trust are, first of all, assume breach. Always assume there may be a breach and do not automatically trust anything inside or outside the network perimeter. Next, least privilege access. Only grant access to resources on a need-to-know basis Access should be tightly controlled and monitored. Strict identity verification. Rigorously verify the identity of every user, device, and application before granting access to resources. Micro-segmentation. Divide the network into small segments and limit communication between segments. This helps limit lateral movement in the event of a breach. Continuous monitoring. Continuously monitor and log all activity to detect threats as soon as possible. Multi-factor authentication. Require additional factors like one-time passwords or biometric factors for user authentication. Endpoint security. Secure endpoints like mobiles and laptops as they are highly vulnerable. So in theory, zero trust minimizes risk by eliminating implicit trust and continuously validating every stage of the digital interactions. The goal is to evolve security from a perimeter-based approach to one that is identity and context aware. Next, we look at endpoint security fundamentals. Endpoint security is the practice of securing the various endpoints or devices which are connected to a network. Endpoints can include desktops, laptops, servers, mobile devices, and other devices that have access to a network. Here are some of the fundamental concepts. Threat prevention. Endpoint security solutions provide real-time protection against various threats such as malware, ransomware, viruses, and phishing attacks. Endpoint security solutions use various techniques such as signature-based detection, behavioral analysis, and machine learning to identify and prevent threats. Next, EDR, which is endpoint detection and response. EDR is a type of endpoint security solution that helps to detect and respond to advanced threats that may have evaded other security measures. EDR solutions monitor endpoints for suspicious activity and provide alerts to security teams. Patch management. Patch management is the process of ensuring that all endpoints are updated with the latest security patches and software updates. Endpoint security solutions can automate this process, ensuring that all endpoints are updated in a timely manner. Next, we look at access control. Endpoint security solutions can enforce access control policies, ensuring that only authorized users and devices can access secure, sensitive data and resources. Data encryption. Endpoint security solutions can also encrypt sensitive data stored on endpoints. Encryption ensures that even if the device is lost or stolen, the data stored on it remains secure. Remote wipe. Endpoint security solutions can also enable security teams to remotely wipe data from lost or stolen devices, ensuring that sensitive data does not fall into the wrong hands. In summary, endpoint security is a critical component of any organization's overall security strategy. By implementing endpoint security solutions, organizations can protect their endpoints against various threats and ensure that sensitive data remains secure. Now we look at an air-gapped network. This term refers to a computer network that is physically or logically separated from untrusted networks, such as the internet or other external networks. This isolation is achieved by ensuring that there are no physical or network connections between the air-gapped network and the outside world. Air-gapped networks are typically employed in highly secure environments where data confidentiality and integrity are paramount. Common examples of air-gapped networks include military networks, government agencies, financial organizations, research laboratories, and critical infrastructure systems. The primary purpose of using an air-gapped network is to minimize the risk of unauthorized access, data breaches, and malware infections that may result from network connectivity. By isolating the network, it becomes significantly more challenging for attackers to inflict connections like network cables, wireless access points, or other communication channels linking the isolated network to the outside world. Transfer data methods include direct network connections being absent, data transfer between air-gapped networks and external systems must rely on alternative methods. This can include the use of removable data such as USB drives, physically transporting storage devices, or employing dedicated secure systems for data exchange. Security protocols. Air-gapped networks employ strict security protocols to ensure the integrity and confidentiality of data. This includes stringent access controls, robust authentication mechanisms, encryption techniques, and monitoring systems to detect unauthorized attempts to breach the network. Operational challenges. Operating an air-gapped network comes with various challenges. For example, software updates and patches must be manually applied as automatic updates are not feasible. Additionally, information exchange between air-gapped network and external systems requires careful planning and security measures to prevent potential threats. Next, we look at the human factor. While air-gapped networks provide a high level of security, the human factor remains significant vulnerability. Social engineering attacks or physical access to the network by unauthorized individuals can still compromise the security of the isolated environment. It is important to note that even with the strongest security measures, no network is entirely immune to attacks. Sophisticated adversaries have developed techniques like side-channel attacks, covert channels, or even using removable media as an attack vector to bypass air-gapped security. Therefore, organizations must continually assess, and update their security measures to mitigate potential risks effectively. Overall, air-gapped networks play a crucial role in safeguarding sensitive information and critical systems from cyber threats by physically isolating them from untrusted networks, filtrate or exfiltrate sensitive information.